I've gone through a lot of videos on the best methods to level your alt job in Final Fantasy XIV, and pretty much everyone always mentions the same stuff. You know, do your leveling roulettes, do your main scenario roulettes, you know, just grind Palace of the Dead for 8 hours. But the one thing that everyone seems to forget, and that is actually my personal favorite for leveling, is Frontline Roulette. Now I understand that a lot of Final Fantasy players are very cautious about the PvP mode because they just, I don't know, maybe they never really got into it. But for a few months now I've been actually having a blast playing Frontline essentially every single day. And it's gotten to the point where if I had to pick one of these roulettes every day, I would pick Frontline 10 times out of 10. And there are multiple reasons why I would recommend it so strongly. First of all, the XP is really good. It's pretty much on par with the main scenario duty. Next up, you can level all of your jobs in there without actually playing them. This is really good for completionists who just want to get a job to max level, but they don't really feel like, you know, maybe they're not ninja fans or they'll just never get into Black Mage, but they still want to level it. And that's where Frontline comes in really handy, because you can go in as any job and then switch to whatever you want once you're inside of the duty. In fact, you can switch as often as you want while you're inside the Frontline duty, and you will still receive your XP at the end on whatever job you went in with. And outside of those two reasons, it's also just pretty fun. It's not always perfectly balanced, but it's not really trying to be a super competitive mode. And I actually think that's working in its favor, because the teams won't be balanced in the first place, so the gameplay doesn't have to be balanced either, because it's all a bit of gambling on who gets the better players anyways. So if you go in with just, you know, a casual mindset, mind you, a casual mindset where you're still trying to win, then I think Frontline is actually a lot more fun than a lot of the other duties, especially for more seasoned players who have done pretty much all of the dungeons over and over. I've had some of my most satisfying moments in the last 3 months in this game happen in Frontlines, where we came back from nothing just because we played well. There's also mounts, glam gear, and all kinds of other cool stuff that you can get in the Wolf Stand. And that is purchased using the wolf marks that you'll just earn every single day by playing Frontlines. So this video is going to be just a quick introduction to the Frontline modes to get you started in it. What you need to know to basically do it on a daily basis and earn some sweet XP. If you haven't really done any PvP before, you might even have to unlock it. And to get that, just talk to your Grand Company officer. They're standing around somewhere in the headquarters. And they should have one of the blue quests available for you to unlock the Wolf's Den. If you've already done PvP, you can also just teleport over there. The reason why I would recommend you do that now is because you will need to sort your hotbars and figure out your new abilities. In PvP, you have PvP abilities. They are separate from whatever hotbars you have set up right now. However, the abilities are simplified, so it shouldn't take you very long to get into it. There are also some special actions that you can pick from in your PvP profile. For now, just pick whatever sounds good to you. To experiment with your abilities, there's some striking dummies right here. You can also take a friend to the PvP grounds and you two just battle each other for a while to get into it. You'll notice that you have one ability that's based off of something called Adrenaline. Adrenaline basically replaces your limit break bar. Whenever it fills, you get to use this ability once. And this is personal, not party-wide, so make sure to use it whenever it's up. Depending on your role, it's going to give you different benefits. Once you've sorted out your hotbar, you're pretty much ready for your first game of Frontlines. There are essentially 4 different modes that all work kind of similarly, but there's small differences. You can also check out the currently active game mode that changes daily on reset. In all 4 modes, there's 3 teams that players get placed into randomly. And all game modes revolve around collecting a certain amount of points in the duty information. The only difference is in what way these points are collected. In the first game mode, called Secure, you have a bunch of capture points that are scattered around the map in a circle. There's 1 capture point in front of each of the Grand Company's base, and then 2 of them around it. So this means you have very easy access to 1 of them, and 2 that you have to contest with the other Grand Companies. In the middle you have this tall mountain, and periodically there will be crystals that spawn up there that you can destroy for points. So a good strategy in this game mode is to at least always maintain the capture point right in front of your base, try and control the other 2 around it as well where possible, and then to put in a good effort in the middle of the map whenever the crystals are up. You don't want to overextend too much, because the closer you get to the other team's spawn, the quicker they will return after dying, giving your team a big disadvantage. The game mode Seize works a little bit differently. There are these tomoliths around the map that periodically activate, allowing teams to capture them. And whenever they're captured, they will start adding to your team's points. However, the enemy teams are able to take this away from you. So your goal is to capture and defend. All of the capture points have different ranks, B, A or S, and depending on that, it will give you a different amount of points per 3 seconds. The next mode is Danshig Naadam, and this one is interesting because it's basically Seize, however the enemy team isn't able to recapture the points. So once you've taken a capture point, you can safely leave. What this means for the gameplay is that teams are always aggressively pushing tomoliths all across the map. So this is by far the most dynamic frontline available. In this mode, if you're not paying attention to the map and you're not seeing where the capture points are spawning, then it's very easy to just get overrun, because endless PvPing in the middle won't get you anywhere in this. From time to time, a big capture point will spawn in the middle of the arena that should be contested by all players. The last game mode is Shatter, and this one is a bit different from the others. Basically, every team has one capture point right in front of their spawn that they want to hold at all times if they want to continue gaining points. Other than that, there's crystals spawning around the map. They have a short activation period that you can track on the map, and whenever they're active, people can start hitting them, and the more damage they deal, the more points their team gets. For all 4 maps, outside of playing for the objective, you can also get points by killing other players. So always be on the lookout for players that overextend or try to lone wolf behind your lines in some way, because usually that'll just get them killed. And that's especially bad in frontlines because there's something called battle high. You can see it on your screen, it's this gauge right here. Basically, the more players you kill or you assist in killing, the higher this will go. And once your battle high passes certain thresholds, you'll gain stat advantages. So it's a legitimate strategy to play a little bit cautiously and try and get as much battle high as possible without dying and losing it. And it's also why you really want to be careful if you ever go do anything solo in front lines. Make sure not to throw your life away needlessly, because you'll lose any battle high that you've accumulated. You can see other people's battle high by looking next to their player names. There's a symbol right here. One thing you want to look out for if you want your team to win is that you have a decent party composition, and this is pretty easy to achieve if everyone's pulling on the same string, because you can always change jobs inside the duty. So make sure that you have at least 1 or 2 tanks, which are really useful in this because they can pull people towards the team, they can stun, they can dash in, they're just generally tanky. Who would have thought? You also want a fair few healers, because otherwise the enemy team will just overrun you. You should also make a good effort to protect your team's healers, because if they go down, then there's no more healing for you, and again, the enemy team will just overrun you at that point. So be on the lookout for any enemy melees that are jumping on your healers. If you're not used to PvP in general, then you might not be familiar with a lot of the CC, the crowd control abilities that you have access to. So have a look at all the stuns and slows that you have that you've neglected to use in dungeons so far, because in PvP these are really useful. Also, don't forget to mount up, especially if you're a tank, because you can catch people that way. People somehow forget that they have mounts inside of front lines, but they can basically mount up mid-fight and chase someone down. Another tip is for all the casters and the ranged physical players, because they have an adrenaline action that I mentioned earlier, which is the LB replacement, that just lets them deal damage in like an AoE. And this can actually be used on the crystals in Shatter. So if you have full adrenaline and you can point that at an enemy crystal that they're farming right now, it's basically free points for your team, because the enemy team likely can't do anything about it before you're done. And my last tip for frontline is that you want to make liberal use of the map. Like, open up your map and see what's happening around you. If you just dash in whenever you see an enemy, then you're not playing frontline correctly. With just a little bit of map awareness and a tiny bit of teamwork, you can basically win every single frontline match there is, provided your team is playing along as well. And that's my quick introduction to frontlines. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.